Coming up on Network Africa, African leaders arrive in Moscow for Russia's Victory Day celebration. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa launches phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela, reaffirming government's commitment to fast-tracking structural reforms. Plus, the International Committee of the Red Cross returns Congolese troops and family who sought refuge in the UN base in Goma to Kinshasa. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. African leaders have begun arriving in Moscow ahead of their attendance of Russia's Victory Day celebrations. Victory Day, which is celebrated in Russia on May 9, has become the country's most important secular holiday. A massive parade through Red Square and other ceremonies underline Moscow's efforts to project its power and cement its alliances it has forged while seeking a counterbalance to the West amid the conflict in Ukraine. Burkina Faso's military leader Ibrahim Traoré, Guinea-Bissau's President Umaru Embalo Sissoco, Zimbabwean President Emerson Mnangagwa, and Ethiopian President Haile Selassie have arrived. The lineup of leaders coming to Moscow contrasts sharply to some past celebrations that drew top Western leaders at a time of friendlier ties between Russia and the rest of the world. Let's get more on this. Joining us now is Dr. Aderunke Kujore, international development expert. Great to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So Victory Day is a European celebration, but we're seeing several African leaders in attendance. Of course, they were invited. What do African leaders have to do with Victory Day?
No, it's great to see so many African leaders there. I think when you think about international relations in any shape or form, diplomatic moves, diplomatic conversations, there's diplomatic relationships, and the yielding of soft power back and forth is a key aspect. And it's good to see that Africa is taking a space in there, especially as the U.S. Takes the position that it's currently taking from a global standpoint.
And this goes to show, the level of the relationship between Russia and Africa, which has increased over the years. Would you agree?
100%. But the actual thing is, if you think back as far as the Cold War, I think in the 1950s, Moscow has always had an interest in Africa and relationships with African leaders. I think it was, somewhere in the middle of the 1990s where they had some issues back home that they pulled back a little bit. But then they've also been coming back out to continue to foster those relationships in Africa. So they've always had interest. They've always looked for allies in Africa. And it's good to see it's happening, especially today.
And what does Russia have to prove by inviting so many African countries to attend this Victory Day celebration?
Sure, it's really a balancing of power, right? So when you think about, world superpowers, the US, Russia, and some of the other small ones, everyone is vying for power. And the question is, how can you get the most of it? And so I think what they're doing here is building strategic alliances with countries that may be able to help them, for instance, at the United Nations. They're also basically putting forth some ideological perspectives, showing the world that they are, in support of free state, which they have always been over the years. They are also putting out there the fact that they are, open to economic transactions. Maybe there might be some military negotiations happening between Africa and Moscow. But really, what they're saying is that we're good stewards. We're going to be good players in this sort of global environment, and they're building alliances so that they can continue to have some conversations and some interactions that will benefit them overall.
Right, and some of the African nations, I just read out that are in attendance as some of those ruled by the military junta where, coup d'etat took place some months ago up until last year. What African leaders do you think, how many more African leaders do you think will attend this Victory Day celebrations, and what African leaders or which African leaders do you think will not be going?
It's tough to say. It's tough to say who will not be going. I think that all of them should be going, especially now. Um, Obviously the ones that you recently called out are there because they are having a very different approach on how Africa has been governed over the last few years. It's a clear statement that they are trying to pull away from this colonial type of leadership to independence, which is the ideology that Moscow has pushed over many, many decades. So it's tough to say who's not going to show up there. There are a lot of people that would have received the invite that may not be in a position to be there. But I think all African leaders need to be there. We need to be thinking about, national sovereignty. We need to be thinking about our independence off of colonial rule. And this is one strategic alliance that could be beneficial for that, especially considering the position of the US and the power that is in the West for right now.
Right, and do you think Nigeria should have representation at this event?
150%. If we do not show up, it would be a shame on us.
Right. And how can African leaders actually make sure that this relationship is truly balanced and beneficial to the continent?
Yeah, I think prior planning. I think where we fail when we think about international relations in Africa and our resources is that we don't plan prior to some of these engagements. And so, we have someone inviting us to the table for a conversation and we don't even know what we want to negotiate out of those deals. And so I think for all African leaders, they really need to have been planning prior to an event like this. They need to be building relationships when they get there, both with Moscow and with the other countries or the other states that are in attendance. This is a huge opportunity to start having a different conversation from what's been had, considering where we are with Trump and his posture. So I think everyone should be there and we should be planning on what we want to get out of it and making sure we deliver on that before we come back home.
Right, and very quickly before I let you go, we spoke about, like a tip of the balance and those attending the Victory Day celebration. We have more African leaders being invited. We do know what has gone down, especially with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. I mean, who from Europe do you think will be going to this Victory Day celebration?
I think it would be surprising to see some of the European, bigger powers or superpowers. It would be surprising to see the UK, or it would be surprising to see France there. But if they, yeah, it'd be surprising to see those guys right now, just because of the temperature of things. But that's not to say that there are not other things that they could be doing to make sure that they're not completely isolated. But it's a difficult time for them.
Right.
It's an exciting time for Africa if we make good use of it.
Right, I reckon. Thank you for your time, international development expert Adirunke Kujore.
You're welcome.
Let's move on. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says some of the early reforms under Operation Vulindlela are already starting to pave the way for economic growth as South Africa continues to grapple with economic stagnation. Launched in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the initiative was designed to tackle key bottlenecks in the energy, logistics and telecommunications sectors. President Ramaphosa officially launched phase 2 of the operation at the capital Pretoria Union Building, reaffirming government's commitment to fast-tracking structural reforms that drive growth and job creation. We're staying in South Africa, where the controversial opposition political and leader of Economic Freedom Fighters Party, Julius Malema, says he has been denied visa to attend a conference coming up in the UK on May 10. Mr. Malema slams the UK government, saying they had no substantial justification for that decision, and that he sees it as an attempt to silence a dissenting political perspective. In a leaked letter to Mr. Malema's deputy, the UK High Commissioner to South Africa, Anthony Philipson, said the Home Office had been unable to process his visa application in time for his trip. Former Congolese President Joseph Kabila's party says it's resuming activities in the country following a suspension last month by the Interior Ministry. Although the government order freezing the activities of the People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy is still in place, the party's lawyers argue that without a court order, the suspension automatically expired after 15 days. An Interior Ministry statement justifying the ban on the PPRD accuses Mr. Kabila of overt activism. It says the 53-year-old had been reluctant to condemn the M23 rebel group controlling the North and South Kivu provinces. Earlier, Kinshasa had accused ex-President Kabila of supporting the armed rebellion in the country's east. The International Committee of the Red Cross has facilitated the repatriation of Congolese military and police personnel alongside their families from a United Nations base in Goma to the capital, Kinshasa. The operation is part of a broader effort to return nearly 1,400 individuals, including soldiers who sought refuge at the MONUSCO base following the M23 rebel group's advance on Goma in late January. The group's journey back began by road through Kanyaba-Yonga and Lubero before reaching Beni for their flight to Kinshasa. The ICRC says it had been approached by DRC's Ministry of Defense and Veterans, the UN and the AFC M23 alliance to act as a neutral intermediary. It adds that the authorities will take responsibility for the refugees once they reach the capital. And to mark World Asthma Day 2025, the Global Asthma Network has launched the Global Asthma Report 2025 Patient Stories. It's a compelling collection of stories from people living with asthma around the world. The report shines a spotlight on the daily challenges individuals face, from delayed diagnosis to unaffordable or unavailable inhaled medicines, as well as the life-changing benefits of timely and effective treatment. More than 250 million people worldwide are living with asthma, a significant global health burden. The World Health Organization says this year's World Asthma Day theme, "Make Inhaled Treatments Accessible for All," reinforces the urgency of ensuring universal access to affordable, quality-assured asthma medicines. Despite decades of evidence showing that inhaled treatments reduce symptoms, improved quality of life, and prevent deaths, access remains inadequate in many low and middle-income countries. We'll have more on the Asthma Day celebration in a moment, and we'll be joined on the program by Dr. Abiono Odeyemi, a senior lecturer and consultant pulmonologist, Department of Medicine, Osun State University in Osogbo. Also still to come on the program, Ugandan sculptor transforms waste into environmental awareness. Please join us again for all these stories. Welcome back to Network Africa. Joining us now is Dr. Abiono Odeyemi, senior lecturer and consultant pulmonologist, Department of Medicine, Osun State University in Osogbo. Dr. Odeyemi is also the Secretary General of the Nigerian Thoracic Society. Thank you for joining us today. A pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so this year's theme is Make Inhaled Treatments Accessible for All. How accessible are inhalers and other medical treatments for people with asthma?
Yes, well, I must say that inhaled medications are not so accessible for a lot of people living with asthma. This is particularly so for our people living in the rural areas. Yes, for some of our people living in the cities, they may have access to these medications. However, for a lot of people in the rural areas and semi-urban areas, these inhalers are actually not readily available. And that is actually a major problem when it comes to treating patients who have asthma.
Right, and I mean, the inhaled medication being available is one thing, but we also spoke about diagnosis just some seconds ago when I was introducing that story. That's if they even know that they have asthma in the first place.
Well, yes, the truth is quite a number of people live with this condition without necessarily knowing that they have the condition. Again, this actually has to do with the way our healthcare sector is set up. So again, for those in the city, it's easy to actually go to the hospital, see a doctor, and then it can be easily diagnosed actually. However, quite a number of people still live with this condition and they are not aware of it. So really, a number of people, yes, they have the condition, but they are not even sure that that's what they have. And even when they know that this is what they have, treatment is also another thing entirely. Okay, so some people, yes, they do not know. Others know they don't even have access to the right treatment.
Right, and you know, I know that you are in Oshobo. That's where we're speaking to you from. If you could give some examples of, you know, how it is, what have been your experience with people in your, you know, area of influence? How do they have they come forward? How much do people know about this condition, and how accessible is, you know, asthma medication to the people, you know, where you work and reside?
Okay, so for our patients who reside in Oshobo, because Oshobo is the state capital, yes, I must say that yes, a lot of people indeed know about the condition and they actually go out there to actually see doctors. However, since we're a referral center where I work, people come from all over the state. So a number of people who come from the rural areas are actually not necessarily aware of their diagnosis. We actually are the ones that make the diagnosis a number of times. And I must say that some people are actually referred acutely. That is, they are actually very sick and then they are referred to the emergency department. It is at that point that diagnosis is made and then treatment started. However, I must say that we've seen cases whereby we've lost some patients because of delayed diagnosis and delayed presentation. And really, we see a number of these conditions. In addition to that, there are also people who yes have asthma. They've been told it is asthma, but for many other reasons, they don't just want to accept the diagnosis, and that also may actually result into not treating the condition, and of course, this may lead to death. Others, in some other cases, we see patients who actually believe there's a stigma associated with using inhalers. Okay, so some people just believe that using inhalers may mean that, oh, they are about to die or the disease is such a big deal. So they actually avoid this treatment, and this actually results in asthma deaths. I must say, asthma deaths are actually largely avoidable. Okay, but because of the ignorance and inaccessibility to proper healthcare facilities and personnel, this actually results in some needless loss of lives.
Right, and you know, we do know that the cost of medication, including that for asthma, is also on the rise. What home remedies can people quickly get going when they don't have the medication, you know, at their fingertips?
Unfortunately, asthma is that condition that we are not aware of any home remedy. Okay, so and which is why I like the theme of this year's World Asthma Day is to make inhaled medications available for all. There are no home remedies at all. So anybody who has asthma, the easiest home remedy is to get the inhaler and use the inhaler immediately. And the beautiful thing about this inhaler is that it can be carried everywhere the patient is. And it does not require electricity or anything. You don't have to refrigerate it. All the patient just needs to do is to have the inhaler by the side. So the home remedy is to administer the inhaler the moment the patient starts having the symptoms. But much more than that, we would expect that every patient should actually see a physician or see an expert who actually knows about the care of asthma, because the treatment should not actually start from when the patient has the symptoms. The moment the diagnosis is made, then treatments actually need to continue whether the patient has the symptom or not. One major challenge we have with people who have asthma, because of the nature of the illness, is that once they are symptom free, for some time they believe, oh, the asthma is gone. But unfortunately, it is not so for asthma. It's a condition whereby even without treatment, the disease can actually be quiet for a very long time, okay, without the patient really showing any symptom. However, this does not mean that the asthma is cured. Unfortunately, a lot of people miss it here, okay? So because the symptoms are actually not there for some time, they believe, oh, the asthma is gone, and then they don't have to use any medications. They don't have to go to the hospital. They don't need to carry their inhalers about. Honestly, that is indeed wrong. So
Right.
to go back to your question, home remedies, there is none, okay?
Right.
The inhalers are the thing that the patient needs to use.
Right. Consultant pulmonologist Dr. Abiona Odeyemi, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
The British High Commission in Nigeria says the UK immigration system is under constant review to allow legal migration and legitimate travel while deterring those who may seek to abuse it. This is in response to recent speculation about UK visa rules that the UK Home Office said visa applications from nationalities thought most likely to overstay and claim asylum in the UK could be restricted under a new government crackdown. It added people from countries such as Pakistan, Nigeria and Sri Lanka may find it more difficult to come to the UK to work or to study. However, the High Commission in Nigeria says the UK continues to work closely with the government of Nigeria to tackle irregular migration, as the UK and Nigeria people links are strong and enduring. British ministers believe there is a particular problem with those who come to the UK legally on work or study visas and then lodge a claim for asylum, which, if granted, would allow them to stay in the country permanently. Reactions are still pouring in over the Nigerian Ministry of Works diversion of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project in the Okwaja section of the project. The latest is from property owners in Okwaja who are alleging bias by the Minister of Works, David Mahi, and harassment by the army. While calling on President Bola Tinubu to intervene, the property owners are also asking the Works Minister to obey the pending court order. Efforts to get a response from the Federal Ministry of Works proved abortive, as the Controller, Keisha Olukoride, declined comments, rather referring the matter to the Minister of Works.
We have coastal right of way. This is our land, you understand? And the court gave an order that they shouldn't diminish the subject matter of the court case. So they didn't stop, they continued building their road. Unknown to us, they planned an attack on the 2nd of May, Friday. And military men came into our site and started beating all the staffs and attacking the staffs. Constitutionally, military men are supposed to protect us from outside intruders, not beat and vandalize Nigerians in the country. That's the constitutional right. The constitutional right also appoints the Minister of Works, you understand? You cannot be using the military to abduct, kidnap. One of our staff members is missing.
I don't know why this minister is going through this route. This is impunity of highest order. Why he talk about marine cable? And we have told him, and he has got the necessary message that marine cable is not at Okwaja, and that's the reason for what he's saying, that he has diverted from the original gazetted plan of the road alignment coming to this place. And when we talk about it, he started with hunting process on horse. He demolished a lot of our properties here that we have built, and now he has come again when we are trying to do something. to continue with our own life here, with our property. He just want to mess up all the foreign direct investment of the people in diaspora into this portal of Winum Estate. This is quite unfortunate.
We end in Kampala, where Ugandan artist and environmental advocate Regan Kandoli is transforming plastic waste and scrap metal into public artworks, using his craft to promote environmental awareness and responsible waste disposal. Mr. Kandoli, who also lectures at Kyambogo University, started the initiative as a student after being overwhelmed by the amount of garbage on the streets. Through his organization, Eco Action, he works with informal waste collectors, purchasing discarded materials to turn into artwork. His sculptures are displayed in public spaces, sparking conversations about pollution, and are being used to raise awareness about environmental degradation, showing how waste can be transformed into both art and opportunity.
I was overwhelmed by the amount of garbage on the streets, even the garbage we had in our own department. So what we did actually, which was very interesting, was to start like cleaning up with the waste from the department. But what was, by then when I was studying, what was interesting for me, I was really interested in finding materials to produce art. I got to find a community around Banda of plastic collectors. These guys would collect plastic and metal and sell it with very little amount to earn a living. So to me, that was a starting point. These guys were really connecting with my story. So I started engaging with them on how best we can add value on what they were collecting.
I used about 5 sacks of plastics to make the sculpture that is behind me. Because when you look at the context of 5 sacks, and all of them are bottles, and they're in the community. So there's a way they tend to endanger the environment. Like we have living organisms, we have, all these are part of our environment. So I had to take these things people were calling waste from the environment and had to recycle it to make it something meaningful.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Jota Rogers.